Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to be joined by former Bills linebacker Mark Maddox, a ninth-round pick in the 1991 draft. He played 7 years with the Bills, 3 with the Cardinals. I was going to get into this later, Mark. You were a favorite around the building there. A few players kind of lent themselves in the building itself to kind of put themselves out there and get to know people in the staff. And if I never told you that before, I really appreciate that. But I know Josh wants to jump in here and
Mark,
get the ball rolling.
I'm going to interrupt Don's introduction here when he told me you were coming on the show. In 1997, your last year with the Bills was my first year as an intern. And I think I have this right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I have this right. Were you the one that drove the blue Dodge Viper with the white racing stripes?
Yes.
Yes, Mark, that was my dream car. I thought you were king shit for pulling out of the parking lot with that car. Back in 97, that was like the vehicle to have. And I don't know how often you think about that car, but I've thought about that car. And even though I didn't really know you then, I definitely knew what you drove and admired that car.
Yeah, I always had a thing for fast cars. And, after I got a decent contract, I was like, it was a dream car. So I said, I'm going to get it. And I ended up getting it.
Well, we always knew when you were in the players lot, Mark.
Yes. I got the original one when it was all black before they came out with the coupe and the hardtop. And as soon as that came out, I traded my black one in for that one.
Good trade.
Nice. Josh, can you sleep now? Since we've been talking about
now.
Mark Maddox.
I've been waiting.
I think it was him.
Yeah, funniest part is, Mark, I've seen that car every once in a while, and I'm like, oh, that's Mark Maddox's car. So you've your legacy has lived on in Buffalo. Can you take us back to your early days, playing football as a kid? Where'd you grow up, and how and when did you know that football, was a realistic, career path, to the NFL?
Well, as a kid, I was always involved in sports, not organized sports, but just sports with my friends, my family, because I got a big family. And in Milwaukee, we would get together all the time. And, we play softball, we play basketball, we go to the school and play a game called Strikeout. It was just, we always did something outside. And I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so the Packers were really big because they played 4 games in Milwaukee and 4 games in Green Bay. So, I would always watch games. And, and it's sad to say that one of my favorite teams growing up was the Cowboys. And the reason it was the Cowboys is because they were always on Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the game that you would always see. So that's what you kind of grew up. That's what I grew up with. But I got involved in football in high school. And at that point in time, I'm like, I want to be a running back. I want to be a running back because I loved all the running backs from OJ, Earl, Walter Payton. And just watching all those guys, it was like, even Marcus Allen, just watching those guys, it was like, I wanted to be a running back. So I was never, like I said, I was never involved in organized sports until I got into high school. And of course, football is the first, sport in the fall. So I ended up joining the freshman football team, and coach was asking what position guys thought they were. And I said I was a running back. And he said, I'll tell you what you are. We'll figure that out. But I ended up playing fullback. And, my desire was to always do the best I could. And I still remember our first game. Our first game we were playing and no one was scoring or anything like that. And I was just blocking. And I think I said something. I don't know if I said something to the coach or how it happened, but I said, man, we got to score. I'm like, we got to do something. And I don't know if it was my enthusiasm or what it was. We ran fullback dive every play until I scored.
Wow.
That second half. And, and from there it just went on. And I just love the game. I just love being a part of a team and, being able to do something on a level that other kids couldn't do, And so, but that's how I got started in sports. And first organized sports was high school. And from my sophomore year, I was the only fresh or sophomore to make the varsity team. I take that back. There was 3 of us that made the varsity team, but I was the only one to play in start. So I started varsity football for 3 years. I did wrestling and track and baseball in high school. And so after that, I'm like I said, growing up, you always want to be a professional athlete. That just runs through your mind when you're watching the sports, that you love to be out there. I didn't think it would be a possibility, even though that's something that I wanted. I grew up in the inner city, and then to go to college, the cost of college, if you didn't have a scholarship, how would that, factor into it? I was offered to walk on at Wisconsin, but I'm like, there's no way I can walk on, be a student athlete, work, and go to school. Just be too much, pulling you in too many directions, and something's going to lag. It's going to be either the sports or your education. And when you're working, is most likely your education, because you're going to, you have to do the sports stuff. So you would bide that time of not doing the stuff that you really needed to be doing.
Interesting choice, because the ceiling for playing with Wisconsin, if you made it, would have been greater exposure. But you made the decision to go to Northern Michigan, and what was behind that decision?
They were the only school that offered me a scholarship.
Oh, okay.
Money talks, right? Money talks.
Well, that's a good reason.
Free education, education.
There you go.
I was heavily recruited by Minnesota. Lou Holtz was there at the time, and I think the guy was named Strong. I remember his last name was Strong. Was heavily recruiting me and stuff like that. So I really, really thought I had a chance of getting a scholarship to go to Minnesota. But what ended up happening is that's the year Lou Holtz ended up going to Notre Dame. And you can't take recruits from one school to another school, and so that was it for that. And there was other Division II schools and Big Ten schools that had looked at me, but everything was the walk on. And I always felt that my career has been always, I've been blessed because I've had good people in my life and good people around me. And what ended up happening, the way I got to Minnesota or Northern Michigan, was there was a teacher at my high school who he played at Northern Michigan, and he coached at a different high school in the city. Most coaches do that. They coach at different high schools other than the ones that they teach at. And he had called up there, and he had talked to one of his coaches, and he had told them, he goes, I'm going to tell you, he told me this story not too long ago. And he said he called up there and he told them that we have a kid that, you guys need to come look at. You can get him and you're not going to be disappointed. And he goes, the first thing the coach asked me, he goes, is he better than you were? And he goes, hands down, I guarantee it. And the coach said, wait a second, you're really saying that? Because for him to say that, because he thought he was the end all be all. And he goes, yeah, he goes, I'm going to tell you right now, he is 100 times better than I was. And I was like, when he told me that, I'm like, oh, thanks, coach, but they came down, they looked at film, and, it was like a day or two later, they said, we want to give you a scholarship. We'll offer you a full ride. You come up here. We want you here. And, that's how I got to Northern Michigan. And
you're lucky that you grew up in Wisconsin, Mark, because, going to Northern Michigan might have been a tough sell if you were a kid from, down south or out west. Northern Michigan sounds cold. I'm sure it was. Talk to me about, being in D2 and we had a number of guys in the program. We had Don Beebe, we had Mike Lodish, guys from smaller schools.
Phil
And
Hansen.
I always like to Phil Hansen. I always like to ask the guys, when's the moment? Was it in college when you thought, wow, you know what, the NFL really is a possibility for me? Because not all Division II guys probably have that same path. When was it in college, or at what point did you think, man, I really could make the NFL?
I guess it probably was draft day when they called me. I just knew, I always felt that I had an opportunity. And like I said, I was blessed with things. When it became when I really thought it was possible is that, we were so close to Green Bay that the scouts would come up and look at some of the guys. And before me, we had a guy, Jerry Woods, who ended up going to Detroit. And I'm like, okay, Jerry got picked up by Detroit. What are the odds that we can get a couple more guys into the league for some time from our team? And it ended up, oh man, I got hurt my junior year. I got redshirted my freshman year because I tore cartilage in my knee. And then I started as a redshirt freshman, and sophomore year. Junior year, I broke my ankle. And then after I broke my ankle, I was like, but when we came into 91, I went in as like a preseason All-American. And I was like, okay, I might have a chance. I would always look at the pro books where they show the size of the linebackers, how much they weigh and stuff like that, because I knew I was on the smaller side, but I seen other guys that were in there and I'm like, oh, I got a chance. I can do this. I know I can. And what ended up happening was, like I told you, how I said I was blessed with having good people around me. The reason I got picked up by the Bills was because of a man named Buck Nystrom. Buck Nystrom called, I can't remember his name, but he called a guy at the Bills and he said the same thing. He goes, listen, I got a guy that you guys need to come look at. Gives you 100%. And if you just take a chance, I can guarantee you he will make an impact for you somehow, some way. And the guy came up, he looked at film, he talked to me. 2 days later, the linebackers coach was up there. We did some drills. He looked at me, he looked at film. And then the next week, John Butler, who was our GM, he was up there. And John Butler, he really cracked me up because he kind of reminded me of like one of my uncles, and he was
the scary one, right? The scary one.
Yeah, he was watching film and I was walking by and he said, get in here. And I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is. And then the coach introduced him and everything like that. And they were talking to me and he asked me, he goes, and this is like 2 weeks before the draft. And after watching film, he goes, do you want to come to Buffalo? I'm like, yeah, sure, I guess. He goes, no, do you want to come to Buffalo? I'm like, yes, sir. And that weekend I was there doing the physical, doing everything. And then I came back and he told me, we like you and we're going to see what we can do. And I was like, then I knew I had a chance.
We've brought John Butler up many times on this program, and the consensus between Josh and me is that he was intimidating. He was a former Marine, and he knew it. He played that up. So to hear that a linebacker thought the same thing is kind of reassuring.
Yeah.
What was draft day like for you, Mark? Were you one of the guys that was kind of around the TV waiting? 9th round obviously is a long wait. Famously, Mike Lodish was on the program, and when he ended up getting the call from Coach Levy and Bill Polian, he asked him what the fuck took him so long to pick Mike.
The second F-bomb ever dropped on our program.
Yeah. Mike, between IK and Mike Lodish. But what was your reaction? Were you just thrilled to be drafted at all? Was the 9th round disappointing? Where'd you feel on that day?
All right. So
You were ahead of Lotus, by the way. I'm looking
yeah.
up the draft.
you know how
class,
they started on the weekend and stuff like that, and I think at that point in time they started on a Saturday or Sunday. They did
Saturday at noon. Saturday at noon.
Yeah, and so they had started it then, and you know, of course, you're like, wow, it would be nice, but I know it's not going to happen then, and so they got to the later rounds, and it was Monday, and I just went on about my day like any other day on Monday. Had classes, had a physics exam. I remember that. And after I got done with my physics exam, I ended up, I was in the dorms at one of my friends, and I get this call, or one of my other friends called and said, "Is Mark over there?" And they were like, she was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, tell him to hurry up and get over here because someone's trying to call him." And I'm like, they didn't say who, and I'm like, okay. So I got over to my place, and I think it was Poland, and they said, "We just picked you up, in the 9th round. You're
Wow.
Bill. How does that sound?" I'm like, "That's great." And they're like, "We're gonna get you out here as quick as we can," and
That's
it just
incredible.
went from there. I was just like, I didn't expect anything. I expected maybe to get a free agent shot somewhere, but I was just thrilled.
Yeah, the guys who played when you played, and they talk about draft day, they always make that point of, remember there were no cell phones. It was like landlines, call waiting.
Yep.
If somebody had to tell you, you said you were taking a physics exam. How in the world could you even concentrate knowing what might have been going on your exam?
But because it was just a dream, but I knew reality was I needed my education and I needed to be in class.
That's funny. So Mark, you get picked up by the Bills. The Bills have been a Super Bowl the year before, obviously wide right, all that. You come to minicamp, your first experience here. You walk into a locker room and on the field with Bruce Smith, Cornelius Bennett, Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly, oversized personalities, like national figures. You talk about growing up, looking up to OJ and Walter Payton and all those guys. Those were the guys in my childhood that were bigger than life. Were you starstruck at all? Like, did you feel like, oh man, hey, Division II guy, like, do I fit? Am I good enough? Or were you like, yeah, this is my field?
No, I was that person that was very reserved. I was very humbled. I was in awe of a lot of those guys. One of the main ones was James Lofton,
Right.
because James was in Green Bay. Watching him as a kid and and everything, to me, it was like, wow, and just to be there, there was a lot of personalities, just in the linebacker room. Shane Conlon, Darryl Talley, Cornelius Bennett, Ray Bentley, Carlton Bailey. I got all these guys that I'm in there with. Marcus Patton, Hal Gardner was there, Matt Monger, was the group that I was in there with. And it was just like, I just knew that the best part about that locker room, let me get to that real quick. The best part about being there with that group of guys, they didn't treat me any different. They didn't treat me like I was a Division II kid. They treated me as a peer to them. And they've already been in the league for a year or 2 or 3. And they helped me. The one thing about that team was guys were very helpful. They were for the betterment of the team. If you're better than I am, then you need to be here. And that mentality is what kept us, at the level that we were at. It wasn't me. It was, if this kid's better than me, because Ray Bentley was a Mike backer, and Ray helped me. Carlton helped me. Carlton they let Carlton go, and I took Carlton's place my 3rd year. But Carlton never thought about that. Carlton was like, let me help you understand the playbook. Let me help you understand what's going on. But yeah, being in there with all those guys, it was kind of surreal because, I kind of tell people now, I'm like, look how many Pro Bowl guys, or Hall of Fame guys I was on a team with. I said, and how many guys were in the Pro Bowl and stuff like that. And it was amazing talent all on that team.
It was. Josh, this is interesting because when we had Daryl Talley on, he really made a point about talking about one of the things he took pride in his career was the way he said he taught other players or wanted to show them things and something to the effect, Josh, maybe you remember it better, but he wanted everyone to be as good as him. And if he couldn't play, he at least knew he did his part to make sure everyone else was prepared.
I can imagine Daryl not being necessarily the most artful of teachers in his language and all. But yeah, he even talked about in the 51-3 game against the Raiders the year before you were there, Mark, that his film preparation, and he was able, because they were up so much. Ray Bentley had 2 picks in that game because of the film study they had done previously on Jay Schrader and getting to the dig route, and they ended up having 4 picks in that game. When you're there, you're coming in after the first Super Bowl, and like you said, the linebacker room itself is what an amazing place of players and personalities. Like, did you feel it's interesting that the Bills in the 90s, how many guys there were like you, like Mike Lodish, who were there for a long time and were considered quote unquote backups, but you stayed there, and you contributed on special teams and you were a huge part of the team. Did you get to the point where you wanted to be a starter? I know, free agency rules were different and all, but were you comfortable in your role, on a great team as a, quote unquote backup?
Well, yeah. I wanted to make the team. That was my goal. First and foremost was to make the team. Okay. But my first year I tore my ACL, or not my ACL. I tore cartilage and had surgery my first year. So I was on the injured reserve. My second year, your starting linebackers are Daryl Talley, Cornelius Bennett, Shane Conlon, All-Pro, and Carlton Bailey.
Yeah, good luck.
Okay. I know I'm not going to start over those guys. Okay. I'm coming off an injury and I'm like, but I know I can contribute. So how am I going to contribute on this team? At that point is special teams. So I'm going to do what I have to do. I got a chance. I think I started 1 game my first year because someone got hurt.
I saw that. Yeah.
I think it might have been Shane, because Shane was the signal, or no, Carlton, because Carlton was the signal caller. So I think I got 1 start and I went in and I produced and I did pretty good. So I was happy about that. But did I think I should be starting? No, because of the people that were there before me. I felt that I could contribute, but I didn't know if I should be starting. And so I played special teams my second year, which was 92. Now, my third year, didn't know what was going to happen because, they let Shane go and Carlton left. And I ended up starting my third year. I was that guy. And I was like, everybody didn't know if Marcus Patton and I could do it because we were a little bit smaller and undersized, but we were very, very strong and we were very quick. Cornelius Bennett was probably the fastest. And then it was me and Marcus. We had speed. We could get to the ball. We had strength. We could take on linemen, even though we were undersized. Pound for pound, we were probably the 2 strongest guys on the team, especially benching, because we're both benching over 500 pounds and weighing 230,
Wow.
So we took on linemen. But yeah, so once I started starting, I just wanted to make sure I contribute, did my job, executed, and did things right.
Yeah, I was looking up here on my phone. If you saw me on my phone, I was looking up the 91 draft class. It's remarkable because there were at least 3, you being one of them, players that came from D2 programs, Phil Hansen, Brad Lamb, and you all contributed. I mean, Henry Jones was at the top of that list and he held out, but wow, what an amazing, the Bills scouting department to have 3 guys in 1 draft from D2 schools that would ultimately, Brad didn't start, but he, he's a role player, but he was relevant. but you started, and it's unbelievable. And then I know in going chronologically, talking about these years, and you ended up cracking the starting lineup. But a couple things, you ended up, one of the players you would end up playing against in a playoff game that you mentioned you admired as a youngster was Marcus Allen. What was that like lining up against him? Like, holy cow! I mean, you talk about playing with James Lofton, being in a locker room, but against Marcus Allen, you had to be like, wow, I'm really here.
Yeah, no, when I knew I was there, and this is way before I started, this would have been in '92 when we played the Raiders in the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
And not only was Marcus Allen on that team, Eric Dickerson was on that team.
Oh, wow.
At that point in time. He was, older and kind of fading out, but we played in that game, and and I played my special teams and stuff like that. But I think we were winning. I don't remember if we were winning. We were winning, or someone got hurt, but I got to go in like the fourth quarter, and they ran a play, and it was Marcus Allen, and I ended up tackling him. And when I tackled him, I just laid on the ground and goes, I can't believe I just tackled Mark.
That's great. Was that out loud? Was that out loud, Mark?
Yeah, I can't believe I just tackled Marcus Allen.
What a career, what a great highlight. Do you have those teams, those games, people around Buffalo and anybody who's a Bills fan remembers, the comeback game. There's the famous soundbite of you on the sideline talking to what looks like a ball boy or an equipment guy, yelling, "They don't want it! They don't want it!" Anybody who's ever seen the NFL Films thing on the comeback game can hear you saying that. What are your favorite games from those time periods? Either that you made a play in, or just so many big games, so many big memories. Like, what as a player, what's your favorite couple games from the Super Bowl?
Well, the comeback game is by far one of them, because I always tease people and say, yeah, the comeback game wouldn't happen if it wasn't for me. And people are like, yeah, because I got a buddy who he does jerseys and stuff like that, and memorabilia. And so he has a jersey, the comeback, and with the score 41-38, and he got like Henry Jones, Darrell, guys who made plays in it to sign it. And when I seen it, I said, how come you don't got me? How come I'm not on there? He goes, I only got guys who made plays. I'm like, dude, come on, seriously? I'm like, you're going there? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Alan. I said, how did the comeback start? He goes, well, we, after halftime, Frank threw the interception. Then they scored. Then we kept the ball, and then we scored. I'm like, Alan, how did we get the ball at midfield? Alan's like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah. How did we get the ball at midfield? Do you not remember that Al Del Greco mishit the ball and it was recovered midfield? And he's like, I'm like, that ball's not recovered by us. They now have a short field and the ball again. That score is not 35-3. It's going to be 42-3.
Wow, nice.
And
that's
I'm
like,
and so I'm like, it was me, Alan. And so I'm like, I started that comeback.
That's funny. That's funny,
Did you
Mark.
Sign it?
I have it. I signed it.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That is funny. That is like the hidden play and the forgotten play there, is that, everybody thought like the Oilers were like piling on and maybe they had done a surprise onside kick, and clearly he mishit the ball. But yeah, if you're right, if you don't recover that ball, the game's over.
Yeah, game's over. And the funny part was, and this is why at the end I was screaming, they don't want it, because after I came off the field, Bruce DeHaven was our special teams coach. And I said to him, I'm like, listen, I go to him, I'm like, Coach, we're going to score right here, and then we can come back and do surprise middle onside kick. And he goes, my French, he goes, you bet your ass we are. And he goes, that's exactly what we're going to do. And sure enough, we came back, we did a surprise onside kick. Me and Mark Pike hit the guy, that the ball went to, lifted him up. Christy even says, "You guys lifted him up, and I got the chance to reach in and grab the ball out." He goes, so we knew then. That's when we were like, and after they just completely melted down. Yeah, no, they didn't want that game.
That's another play, obviously, even more
Mhm.
famous, the onside kick. Sure, I do remember you being in the middle of that and
Mhm.
kind of a scrum. I remember Christy recovered it, but
Yep.
it's interesting to hear your
That was our
perspective on it.
job. We blocked them so Christy could get the ball. That was the goal of it.
Pretty amazing that the Oilers weren't ready for that. Like they clearly, weren't ready for a play like that. You need the ball back if you're down 25 points, or even early third quarter. So, after that game, take me into the locker room. The game ends. Like, what's the scene in the locker room? What does that feel like as a player to win a game like that?
That's like one of those games where it's like, you're overjoyed, and everybody's excited. Everybody was like, wow, even we really couldn't believe what happened, but we always had faith and confidence in ourselves, and we always trusted in the person with us, beside us. And so it was one of those things, we were excited, we were ready, and Marv quickly put us back in our spot and said, "It's a game. We still got next week," and everybody was just, you can celebrate. You got 24 hours to celebrate, then it's over. But it was one of those things where you just know that you could see it on everybody. Just, wow, look what we just did. Look at the ability that we have and how we can overcome. It was one of those, it's just that roller coaster, low to a high. And we enjoyed it. Everybody was excited.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, then you go to Pittsburgh, winning a very impressive game there, a really good defensive effort.
On the road again.
One of the more impressive wins, really, maybe kind of underrated throughout the Bills. Amazing. Josh and I were talking about this the other day, a 9-0 run in the AFC playoffs those 4 years. Then to Miami for the AFC Championship. And, of course, Frank had played the Oiler game and the Steeler game. Do you remember as in the locker room or on the practice field, or thinking or talking with other players about, who are we going to be going with? Is it, the offense is going to be going with Frank or Jim for this game? And what was like your earliest indication that is going to be Jim?
Well, we always, the coaches were always very fair about, if you're a starter, you're a starter. If you're injured, once you come back, your job's not gone. We just knew that whoever was in there, we were confident that we would win. We had complete faith, and that's one thing about this team, is that we never felt there was a drop off when a backup went in. We always had the confidence that we were going to keep on, that motor was going to keep running just the same with the backup in or with the starter in.
Mm-hmm.
And so there wasn't a lot of talk about who should start or anything like that. Jim's healthy. Jim's our guy. If he's not healthy,
that might have been the question for me, is like, I don't think there was any question Jim was going to be the starter when he was healthy, but with his personality, you almost wonder if he would be like only 70% back, but telling the trainers like, I'm ready, where he might have not quite been 100%, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it worked out great, of course.
Yeah. That happens in a game. You can look at it even in today's game. You see players who are hurt that go back on the field, and they shouldn't be on the field. Look at Tag of whatever his name is.
Yeah,
when he got the concussion, and went back in the game. You look at Patrick Mahomes when he hurt his ankle in the playoff, and he's back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That part of the game will never change until the trainers are put into a situation where they get fined.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the ownership, because as a player, you want to compete. You want to be on that field. If you're 80%, you think you're 100%, and you want to be on that field. Okay. when I got my stinger really bad, I knew I wasn't 100%, but guess what? I didn't want to come off that field. You know, my job is to be out there and, you know, to do the best I can. And I played until I had numbness in my hand for 6 weeks. So, you know, I had to stop. But, you know, but that's our mentality. And so, you know, I don't know if Jim was 100% or not, but, you know, the coaches were confident in him and the trainers were confident in him.
Yeah.
So, you know,
great.
So Mark, you know, you guys had, you know, that linebacker room you talked about, and you're playing, you know, the continuity of having, you know, that team together for so long. You know, people who listen to the program ask me all the time to ask guys like you, like, give me a couple of funny locker room stories, or, you know, off the field stories, or a story about Daryl, or a story about Cornelius, or something that, you know, that you could share, just to give like a taste of what it was like, you know, to be on, you know, those, you know, famous teams.
yeah, I mean, probably one of the funniest things was, you know, we like you said, we had a lot of personalities in that locker room. And it was a morning meeting, and we always had a team meeting. And you know, I don't remember if they fined us for being late or anything like that, but we had we had we were all in the meeting, and everybody was looking around because we were like, where's Thurman? Thurman wasn't in the meeting. And and we were like, we were getting ready to start, and I think Marv had started talking, and the door was still open. And, you know, all of a sudden, you hear out of the blue, I ain't scared of them. And we're like, it was Squatty. He was coming, but he used a little bit of colorful language at the end of that, you know, because someone said something to him, and he's like, I ain't scared of them. And we were like, we just looked at each other and started laughing. He comes walking in and sits down, but that was pretty funny. You know, we the guys, you know, that locker room, you know, you had your comedians, you know, your jokers and stuff like that, but I mean, I just appreciated the family like atmosphere that we had, you know, Glenn Parker having stuff at his house, paintball and stuff like that. You know, one of the things was it the receipt? They did it to Russell Copeland to go get a free turkey or something like that. They had they had different things that they did. You know, us as linebackers, we were mild mannered and stuff like that. You know, we were just ready to beat people up on the field. But
Yeah,
you know,
you have such a kind of a Jekyll and Hyde
oh
way
yeah,
about you, because I remember when you were in the building, you were very mild mannered, and it's how you come across now. I know that's how you are. But you talked about when you played football as a kid, and one of the things you were known for was your enthusiasm. I'm sure what you mean is that it manifested itself on the field, on the sideline. Josh bringing up, of course, you know, during the comeback game, you were the one yelling, you know,
they don't want it.
they don't want it, they don't want it. So it's amazing how you're kind of able to flick a switch for whatever situation you're in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That probably served you well. That probably served you well in that locker room, you know, with those guys, you know, being able to kind of, you know, blend in and be a part of part of a squad, and be a part of a team. Do you you know, when your career took another turn and you left Buffalo, how bittersweet was that for you? And then, like, what a culture change to go from, you know, the Bills, you know, Coach Levy, you know, John Butler, to go to Arizona. Like, was that a difficult transition for you?
Um, in all honesty, it was kind of a blessing for me, because I don't know if you guys can remember this, but what ended up happening was when I tore my knee up in 95. So I started 93, 94, 95, and then I tore my knee up. And when I came back, I wasn't the same. And so, and Wade Phillips was there. And so in 96, I still started. Um, but I don't feel I was like 100%. I felt I was 100%, but I wasn't myself, you know, on the field. And, you know, I was in pain. My leg was always hurting. And I started 14 games that year. And we went to Miami, and I was inactive that whole week. In practice, I was as a starter, but when we got to Miami, I heard I was inactive, and that just blew my mind. And I'm like, how do I go from starting,
right,
and even in practice, to being inactive? But Wade Phillips had brought in Damian Covington, and so that was his guy, and that's who he wanted. And so I was like, okay, I was fine with that. And Marv talked to me, and but they didn't tell me anything that I did or what was going on. So I was like, okay. So we came back in 97, and they cut me in the preseason. And Marv said he cut me early to hopefully get picked up by someone else. Well, I didn't get picked up. Went through half of the year. Chris Billman hurt his neck. And my first day back, Damian ended up severing that nerve that caused him to have drop foot in practice. And I'm the only one who's been a starter on the team at the linebacker, inside linebacker now. So I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to get a chance to start again, right? But they didn't end up starting me. They started John Holacek. And I ended up, when I played that year, I didn't even play special teams when they brought me back. I ended up playing short yardage and goal line. They put me in the game, and in the red zone, they put me in the game. And in my mindset, I'm like, if you're saying that my coverage ability isn't that great and I'm not playing as good against the run as I did before, why are you putting me in the game during these critical situations? That I didn't understand. That I didn't really get. And so it was just frustrating for me to go over there and work so hard and to do everything, and then to kind of just be like, you're really just here for insurance. If you would have just told me that when you brought me back, instead of saying that I had an opportunity,
makes sense.
Yeah, I would have been okay with that.
At least you had the Dodge Viper then, Mark.
Yeah.
and you did make an impact on one intern's life back then. That was the goal in '97. It's like, man, I need a second contract at One Bills Drive that actually pays me money. Maybe someday I can get a Dodge Viper.
Yeah. There was a lot. That '97 season was a tough season. It was a lot that didn't make sense about that year. Yeah. Still the core of the team together, but things just didn't click, and there were a lot of changes. But I could tell you from an organizational standpoint, with a guy like you that had contributed so much to the team, it was bittersweet the way Josh put it, where we were sad to see a player like you not be there, but happy on the flip side to see that you were able to continue your career as a starting player for another team, especially if you're not in the division. Thank you very much. With this is you've been very generous with your time, but we would like to finish things out by throwing something at you that I did not text you about at all. It's called a 2 minute warning.
Yeah, we do the 2 minute warning, Mark. We do 10 kind of rapid fire questions. Try to keep it to 2 minutes or less, just to give people a different side of your personality. So I'll go first here today, Don. And Mark, where is the most interesting place that you now watch a Bills game, and do you watch every Bills game?
Most interesting place is, I have a buddy named Bob Reynolds. We go to different Bills backers with my nonprofit and watch the game with them and get more Mafia fans to become friends. So we go to LA.
What's the name of your nonprofit?
Help One Foundation.
And what does it do?
We do a bunch of different things: Christmas party or Christmas presents for low income kids, books for Title I schools. What else do we do? That's the most stuff that we do. And even though I'm here right now, we're going to do a carnival night for the Boys and Girls Club tomorrow night to good bring a little unity to the community.
That's awesome. That's great. So you go to different Bills backers bars around the country?
Yep.
How fun.
Mainly in the West: El Paso, Albuquerque, California, Vegas.
Do you roll in with a 55 jersey?
Yeah, we give them away. Yes, we do.
All
Good
right.
for you. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, well, you're going to look. We'll talk more about that. The Help One Foundation, and that's really special. So, 3 people dead or alive that you'd want to have dinner with.
Oh, Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King. I hadn't thought about this one. Obama.
Hmm?
Dinner with him, and maybe what's her name?
Taylor
Miss
Swift.
Ross.
Taylor
Miss
Swift.
Ross from Bus. Who did you say?
Taylor Swift.
Negative.
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 So
Who did you say? Who did you say?
Miss Ross from the Bus in Alabama.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So there's an arena. You're the lead act. There's dry ice. What would be your entrance song coming in?
Oh my God, my intro song. Let's Get Crunk by Lil Jon Nim. The theme song for like the Saints. That's a good song.
And you were talking about Rosa Parks, right?
Yeah, Rosa Parks. Parks.
Okay.
I don't know why I call her Miss Rose.
That's respectful. Best concert you've ever seen? Attended.
Best concert was oh my God, who was it? Where?
We can come back to it.
I'm gonna go in Buffalo. Was Garth Brooks.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Mark. We did an episode talking about the most interesting linebackers of the almost 30 years that Don was with the Bills. He tells some behind the scenes stories and stuff. And we were on a website called Ranker. Yes, you are on the list. Ranker.com. And they listed Cornelius Bennett as the best linebacker in Bills history. I'm going to put you on the spot, Mark, and you are uniquely qualified to answer this question. 97 or 56? One game. Who you got?
Oh man, I love Darryl. I love Darryl and I love Biscuit. Heart and 100% just giving everything they got is Darryl Talley. Talent and is Biscuit. Biscuit had the talent. Darryl had the heart, and that made him everything that he is. I had to choose one. I'm gonna have to go with DT because that's my boy, and we talk all the time. So
that's the correct answer in my opinion. I don't know about
very
everybody
diplomatic
else,
as well. Yeah,
there you go. Of course.
All right, thinking back to your Buffalo days, which by the way, you mentioned you are in town for these 2 games, and with your the Help One. That's awesome. What is your favorite restaurant, and what dish do you get there?
Oh, Chef's. And I get the spaghetti parm.
Nice.
I'm trying to get my buddy to go there for lunch today, but we don't know if we're going to make it.
We don't want to hold you up. We only have a few more questions.
That works.
No, we're good.
This is great.
That works. Favorite cartoon as a kid?
Oh my God. It wasn't a cartoon. Well, I would go with Mighty Mouse.
All right. Sounds good. The most annoying fan base of another NFL team.
Eagles.
Wow, that was quick.
That was quick.
What was your favorite road city?
Road city was I'm going to say probably when we went to New York, like when we went to the Giants or the Jets.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a big stage. Can you drive a stick shift? I have a feeling from Wisconsin you could.
Yes, the Viper was stick shift.
Yes. The Viper was everything, Mark. That's great. All right, last one here for you. We're batting about 35-65 on this one. Can you sing us 5 seconds of the Northern Michigan University fight song?
No.
Okay.
We didn't even sing it.
Do you know it?
No. We didn't even. Yeah, that's not something that we even did.
Okay, fair enough. Well, you've been really generous with your time here, Mark. Hopefully people do check out. Do you have a website for your foundation?
Yeah, it's Help One, the number 1 foundation.org.
Yeah, hopefully everybody checks it out. We got a bunch of people from all around the country who listen to this. Do you post where you're going to be at Bills Backers Bars?
Not on there. I do it online.
Okay. Are you on Twitter?
Man, that's like a full-time job.
Yeah, sure is.
We do have something on Twitter, but I don't go on there that much because it, like I said, it's a full-time job. And then I go on there and I'm trying to figure out what people are this and that. And it's like, whoo.
Yeah, got you. Well, we'll definitely put the link up for anybody who'd like to visit and find out more about what you do. And hopefully your time here this week, and hopefully the game Sunday maybe goes a little bit better than Monday night.
Yes,
it's been great, Mark. Great reconnecting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right.